What I wanted to do was add another transformer in order to power the APCO-X and isolate it from the rest. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Gary McCready from HVAC Know-It-All. So what we're going to do here is install an APCO-X UV light in a residential application. Now I'm going to take you in and show you this, but there's zero room above the coil because what they've done is the coil is raised up and it's at the end of the supply plenum. So there's zero room to install the physical whole APCO-X right above the coil to decontaminate it. So this model here, and I'll take you inside and I'll show you, it comes with a light that is actually remote from the main part of the equipment, and you can remotely wire a light so it's above the coil and still decontaminate it. Let's go inside and I'll show you. So here's our system down in the basement, and as you can see, the A coil is mounted quite a bit higher than you would normally see it. You'd normally see it slightly above the furnace, and it's at the top of our supply plenum, so we can't install the full APCO-X system here or above it. So we're going to install it on the return side, and I'll get to that in a minute, and then we're going to install the remote bulb either underneath the A coil or slightly above it, wherever the best placement is. So obviously reading the manual is key before we start any installation. So I would suggest you take 15 minutes or so and read this manual front to back and make sure that you have everything you need and you're going to install it correctly. So what we want to do first is take the gasket that comes with the kit, and we want to trace the inside of it on the duct here. Now, I've already taken this line and leveled it out, so I know that we're level there. So what we're going to do is trace this out. And now we need to take our tin snips and cut this portion of duct out. So we have our hole all cut out here. Now what we're going to do next is take our mounting plate and attach the gasket to the back of the plate. Once the plate and the gasket are fastened to the duct, you're going to want to screw down the plate with some self-drilling screws and bend back each individual tab. So here's the unit opened up with the cover off. And if we look on this long piece here, this is our carbon matrix. This is our titanium infused carbon. And it's unlike activated carbon where this doesn't become saturated, it keeps regenerating. So we always have that carbon to get rid of the odors in the air. And what's really important about installing these on the return side is we want to have the airflow coming down and hitting the UV light first and then the carbon matrix. And the other reason for that is we don't want the UV light shining down potentially on the filter media because the UV light can start to deteriorate that filter media. So we want to install it basically upside down, just like this on the return side. Now these plastic nuts make this install very, very easy because all we have to do is take these nuts, apply them to the bolts that are existing on the bracket, and tighten them down. All right, so here's the bulb. Very, very delicate, so be very careful. It does come bubble wrapped and inside its own cylinder shaped cardboard container. So it's nice and protected in the box, but you got to make sure that when you're handling it, you're very, very careful. At this point, we're going to locate the opening in the APCO-X main housing, and we're going to slide the bulb through, and we're going to fasten the bulb with the plastic nuts and the bolts provided. So once that bulb is fastened in place, all we do is take the connecting adapter and we push it in place. It can only go on one way, so there's no real way of messing this up. And this is made really, really easy to do. We can take this bracket and basically snap this piece off that has the bolts on it and the opening. And once we do that, we can drill out our 1-inch hole. Then we can take our bracket, we can fasten it with some screws, and then our bulb slides right through this hole and fastens onto these bolts right here. So we're going to slide the bulb in and use the 2 plastic nuts that it came with, like we did on the return side. Now our next step here is to take the remote cable that will fasten to the remote bulb and do some cable management and get it nice and neat so we can plug in the remote bulb. So with a flashlight on there, you can see our cable is now plugged in, and very, very simple. It only goes in one way. So our remote bulb is now mounted. Now we have to power the APCO-X up with 24 volts. So this is a 24 volt installation, and the unit comes with this power cord. In one end we have a connection point that plugs into the top right here, and then we can route our wire down into the air handler or furnace and pick up the 24 volts needed to power up the APCO-X. So here's the nameplate here. We are using the TUVX-DER, and it draws approximately 1.36 amps. So I didn't want to use the original transformer that came inside of this furnace. What I wanted to do was add another transformer in order to power the APCO-X and isolate it from the rest of the unit. So what I did was just piggyback the 120 over to the new transformer, and we picked up our 24 volts right here for the APCO-X. Now we just got to do a little bit of cable management, turn this thing on and test it. So here we are all powered up, and we can see the faint glow of the UV bulb in the return, and then up at the supply we can see the same thing. So we've just installed an APCO-X system with a UV light in the return and the carbon matrix with the UV bulb first and then the matrix, and then we have the remote UV bulb to disinfect the coil right above. So all in all, very, very simple installation. Just make sure that you read the manual and make sure that you use a secondary transformer and not the one that comes with the furnace, because you don't want to short it out by drawing too much amperage through the APCO-X. That's it, guys. That's the video. Like, subscribe if you like the channel. Happy HVACing.